Level 1. The local crew. You are 23 years old. Your organization is not really an organization yet. It is 4 people who grew up in the same neighborhood, use the same vehicles, and trust each other because nobody else does. The crimes are small: stolen goods, fake checks, burglaries committed after closing time. You do not have a headquarters, written rules, or a leader anyone officially recognizes. You believe that makes the group invisible. It does not. Local police arrest one member after he tries to sell stolen electronics to an undercover officer. At first, the case belongs entirely to the city. Then detectives examine the recovered devices. Several were stolen from stores in different states. Others were purchased using fraudulent identification. Payments moved through accounts opened under false names. The crimes have crossed state lines. That creates federal interest. Special Agent Marcus Hill receives the first referral. He does not begin by hunting the whole crew. He begins with one question: which part of the operation is easiest to prove? The answer is not the burglaries. It is the money. Agents compare store records, bank deposits, online listings, vehicle registrations, and phone contacts. Each piece is ordinary alone. Together, they reveal repetition. The same account receives payments after several thefts. The same vehicle appears near different stores. The same 4 phones communicate before each incident and become unusually quiet afterward. You still do not know the FBI is involved. The arrested member does. He faces charges that sound much larger than the crime for which he was originally caught. Agents explain the difference between being treated as one thief and being treated as part of a coordinated federal case. They do not promise him freedom. They offer him a choice about how much responsibility he will carry. He begins talking. Not because he knows everything, because he knows enough. He identifies the person who stores the stolen property. He explains how the group selects locations. He gives agents the nickname of the person who handles payments. Search warrants follow. Phones are seized. Accounts are frozen. The crew disappears in one morning. You thought the organization was protected because it was small and informal. But informality does not remove structure. It only hides structure until one member describes it. At level 1, the FBI does not destroy the group by treating everyone as a mastermind. It finds the weakest, provable crime, turns it into leverage, and lets the organization begin explaining itself. Level 2. The Street Gang. You are 27. The organization now has a name. There are 23 known members and several more who deny belonging to it. The group controls a few blocks, sells illegal goods, commits robberies, and uses violence to protect its reputation. Nobody writes down the rules. Everyone knows them. Older members give orders, younger members take the risks. Money moves upward, consequences move downward. You believe the structure protects the leadership. If a low-ranking member is arrested, he is expected to remain silent. If someone talks, the threat does not need to be explained. The FBI joins the investigation after local police connect the gang to crimes involving multiple jurisdictions, firearms trafficking, and coordinated violence. Special Agent Carla Ruiz is assigned to a joint task force. The task force includes federal agents, local detectives, analysts, and prosecutors. They do not begin with the leader. The leader rarely touches anything directly. They begin with the organization's daily routine. Who drives whom? Who pays for hotel rooms? Who communicates after an arrest? Who suddenly receives money when another member disappears? Surveillance teams document meetings. Analysts compare police reports that were previously treated as separate incidents: a robbery in one district, a stolen vehicle in another, an assault 3 weeks later. Different officers wrote the reports. The task force places them on the same board. The same names begin appearing. Agents then focus on the people who occupy the middle. Not the youngest members, not the public leader, the people who carry instructions between them. One mid-ranking member is arrested on an unrelated federal charge. He expects the gang to help his family. Weeks pass. Nobody does. The organization that demanded his loyalty treats him as replaceable. Ruiz shows him what the investigation already knows: photographs of meetings, financial transfers, messages recovered from other devices. She does not ask him to invent a case. She asks him to explain the case already forming. He cooperates. Now investigators can distinguish rumor from hierarchy. They learn who approves violence, who manages money, and who recruits new members. The task force does not make arrests immediately. It waits. More evidence is collected. More relationships are confirmed. Then warrants are executed across the neighborhood at the same time. The young members wake to find the older members gone. The older members discover that the people beneath them have described the chain of command. You believed fear made the organization strong. But fear creates loyalty only while everyone believes the organization can protect them. At level 2, the FBI destroys the gang by proving that loyalty moves upward while protection does not. Once members understand that imbalance, silence becomes much harder to maintain. Level 3, the Interstate Theft Network. You are 31. The organization no longer belongs to one neighborhood. It operates across 6 states. Teams steal vehicles, electronics, construction equipment, and high-value cargo. Other members alter records, transport property, and sell it through businesses that appear legitimate. Most participants know only one part. The driver knows the route. The broker knows the buyer. The person creating false paperwork knows neither. You believe separation is security. No single member can describe the whole operation. Special Agent Daniel Cho leads an investigation after several state police agencies notice similar theft patterns. The targets are different. The method is not. Vehicles disappear shortly before weekends. Tracking devices are disabled in similar ways. Property is moved through the same transportation corridor. The reports were filed hundreds of miles apart. A federal analyst places them on one timeline. The pattern becomes visible. Cho does not treat the organization as a list of suspects. He treats it as a supply chain. Every supply chain has pressure points. Storage, transportation, paperwork, payment. Investigators begin with transportation records. A small trucking company appears near several theft locations. The company has legitimate customers, real employees, and valid permits. It also has unexplained overnight routes. Agents use court-authorized records to compare vehicle movements with the timing of thefts. The overlap is not perfect. It does not need to be. A warehouse lease leads to another company. That company shares an accountant with a vehicle export business. The export business receives payments from buyers connected to stolen property. No single document proves the organization exists. The documents describe it when placed together. One driver is stopped while transporting property connected to a recent theft. He claims he did not know what he was carrying. That may be true. Cho is less interested in what the driver knew than in who gave him instructions. The driver provides a phone number. The number belongs to a disposable device. But the device repeatedly travels alongside another phone registered to a logistics manager. The investigation moves upward. Agents obtain warrants for warehouses, offices, and digital accounts. They find false titles, altered shipping records, buyer lists, and photographs of property taken before it was sold. The organization's separation becomes evidence of organization. Each member performed one narrow task, but those tasks repeated in the same order. The arrests occur across several states before anyone can warn the others. Drivers, brokers, document specialists, and managers are questioned separately. Their stories do not match. The records do. You believed compartmentalization meant nobody could reveal the full network, but the FBI did not need one person to explain it. The network explained itself through movement. At level 3, the FBI destroys the organization by treating every crime not as an isolated event, but as one repeating system. Level 4, the Fraud Company. You are 35. The organization now has an office. Employees wear identification cards. Customers receive contracts. The company has a website, payroll, accountants, and a customer service department. From the outside, it looks ordinary. That is the point. The business collects money through false investment opportunities, fabricated services, and fees hidden behind professional language. Some employees understand the fraud. Others believe they work for a legitimate company. You rarely speak directly to customers. Managers handle complaints. Salespeople make promises. Accountants move the money. You believe the corporate structure separates you from the victims. The first complaints go to local agencies. Each one appears small. A customer loses $5,000. Another loses $12,000. A third receives no refund after months of waiting. No single complaint describes a national operation. FBI financial crimes analyst Priya Nair notices that several complaints mention related company names. The addresses differ, the payment processors overlap. She begins cross-referencing them. 40 complaints become 200. 200 become more than 1,000. The organization did not hide the victims, it scattered them. Nair's team follows the money, not because every transfer is suspicious, but because legitimate businesses and fraudulent businesses behave differently under pressure. Refunds are delayed. Customer payments are moved quickly. Executive compensation rises while services disappear. Internal transfers make money look like revenue from unrelated companies. Agents interview former employees. Most know only fragments. One remembers being told to change the company name in customer emails. Another remembers managers ordering staff to continue accepting payments after the service had already failed. A former accountant preserved copies of internal messages. They show that leadership discussed customer losses as a public relations problem, not an operational failure. The company continues operating while the case develops. You interpret the delay as proof that investigators have nothing. In reality, prosecutors are calculating loss, identifying victims, and separating employees who were deceived from employees who helped deceive others. Search warrants are executed at the office, data center, and several homes. Computers are taken before files can be deleted. Bank accounts are frozen before money can be transferred. Employees arrive for work and find federal agents carrying boxes out of the building. The company does not collapse because of one angry customer. It collapses because hundreds of small complaints are assembled into one pattern. You believed a professional office made the fraud look legitimate, but professionalism also created records, payroll, emails, contracts, meeting notes, bank transfers. At level 4, the FBI destroys the organization by using the paperwork designed to protect the business as a map of the people who controlled it. Level 5, the distribution network. You are 39. The organization moves illegal products through several cities. You do not personally transport anything. You manage people who manage other people. Suppliers provide the product. Regional coordinators receive it. Local distributors divide it. Street-level sellers create distance between the organization and the leadership. The system is designed so that losing one participant changes nothing. Someone is arrested. Another person takes his place. A shipment disappears. Another route opens. You believe replacement makes the organization permanent. Special Agent Thomas Reed leads a long-term investigation involving multiple field offices. His goal is not to seize one shipment. A seizure proves that illegal material existed. It does not explain who built the system around it. Reed's team studies communication patterns, travel, financial activity, and repeated associations. Investigators notice that several regional coordinators visit the same ordinary businesses: a car wash, a restaurant, a small repair shop. The businesses may be legitimate. They also function as meeting points. Court-authorized surveillance confirms that people from different parts of the network arrive shortly before major deliveries. Agents deliberately avoid arrests. This frustrates local officers who know some participants are actively committing crimes. Reed explains the reason. Arresting the visible seller may protect the invisible supplier. The task force waits for the organization to expose more of itself. One coordinator is arrested in another state. Investigators recover evidence linking him to several locations, but his phone contains no clear list of names. The useful information is behavioral. Who stops communicating after his arrest? Who changes vehicles? Who moves money? Who travels unexpectedly to reassure local members? The reaction reveals authority. Agents identify the financial manager, a person with no criminal record and no public connection to the street operation. He pays rent, legal fees, and emergency expenses for members of the network. Money shows which people the organization considers important. The investigation reaches the supplier through a series of introductions documented over months. By then, the FBI understands not only who participates, but how replacement works. The arrests target several layers simultaneously: suppliers, regional managers, financial coordinators, transportation contacts, local distributors. Nobody remains above to reorganize the people below. Nobody remains below to generate money for the people above. You design the network so that one arrest would never destroy it. The FBI agrees. so it does not make one arrest. At level 5, the organization collapses because investigators do not remove a person. They remove the system's ability to replace that person. Level 6, the protection racket. You are 43. The organization controls businesses without officially owning them. Restaurant owners, contractors, and shopkeepers make regular payments. The money is described as security, consulting, or debt repayment. Everyone understands what it really buys. Nothing happening. No damaged property. No threatening visitors. No unexplained problems with deliveries. The organization rarely gives explicit orders. A raised voice is unnecessary when the reputation already exists. You believe victims will never cooperate. They have families, businesses, employees who depend on them. The first breakthrough does not come from a brave public witness. It comes from financial pressure. One business owner falls behind on taxes and is audited. The records show unexplained monthly cash withdrawals. He initially refuses to explain them. FBI Special Agent Laura Bennett meets him with a prosecutor and a victim specialist. They do not pretend cooperation is safe. They discuss protection measures, legal consequences, and the evidence already available. The owner still says no. 3 months later, the organization demands a larger payment. This time, he calls Bennett. He is not asked to confront anyone or create danger. Investigators begin documenting what can be documented lawfully and safely. Dates, amounts, visitors, changes in business activity after payments are missed. Other business owners are approached. Most deny everything. But their financial records show similar patterns. Cash withdrawals on the same days, payments routed through the same service companies, loans that are never formally recorded. One owner provides old messages, another provides security footage, a third confirms the identity of the person who collects payments. The collector is arrested. He insists he is only a messenger. That is exactly why investigators want him. Messengers connect the people making demands to the people receiving money. He explains that instructions are delivered indirectly, a phrase from one supervisor, a location from another, a payment amount from someone else. The organization believed indirect language could not be prosecuted. The FBI builds context. A statement that sounds harmless alone changes meaning beside. Payments, threats, property damage, and witness testimony. The case expands beyond individual acts. Prosecutors argue that the organization used fear as a business model. Arrests occur before the collectors know which owners cooperated. The secrecy that protected the victims also prevents the organization from knowing where the case began. You believed fear guaranteed silence, but fear also creates patterns. Businesses behave differently when controlled. Money leaves on schedules. Owners change routines. Threats produce measurable consequences. At level 6, the FBI destroys the organization by turning private fear into corroborated evidence that no single witness has to carry alone. Level 7, the corrupt enterprise. You are 47. The organization has allies inside legitimate institutions. A police officer provides warnings. A public employee alters records. A contractor directs government work toward companies you control. A lawyer tells members which questions investigators are likely to ask. The organization no longer survives only by hiding from the system. It survives by placing people inside it. You believe every investigation can be seen before it reaches you. Then, the FBI creates a separate corruption team. Special Agent Anthony Brooks limits information to a small group. Local agencies are told only what they need to know. Case records are compartmentalized. Meetings happen away from the offices normally involved. The investigation begins with something minor. A confidential document appears in the organization's possession only hours after it is created. Very few people had access to it. Brooks does not immediately confront them. He introduces controlled differences into future information. Different versions go to different recipients. When one version reaches the organization, the source becomes clearer. The compromised official is placed under investigation. Financial records reveal payments routed through relatives, discounted property, and business opportunities that appear unrelated to his job. The official denies receiving bribes. He calls them favors between friends. Brooks focuses on timing. The favors arrive after warnings. Contracts follow altered records. Payments increase when the organization faces pressure. The relationship becomes visible through sequence. Another insider is identified through access logs. She viewed files unrelated to her duties shortly before searches were compromised. Investigators do not arrest either insider immediately. They allow the organization to believe its warning system still works. False confidence produces more communication. Leaders discuss which officials can be trusted. Payments continue. Meetings are documented. When the arrests begin, the organization receives no warning. The police officer who normally calls does not call. The employee who normally changes the records has already been removed. The lawyer learns that investigators used a team outside the compromised circle. The first wave targets the insiders. The second targets the businesses that paid them. The third targets the leadership that benefited. You believed corruption made the organization untouchable. Instead, every insider created another connection between criminal decisions and official actions. At level 7, the FBI destroys the enterprise by making the corrupt members believe they are still protecting it. Then it watches who depends on the protection. Level 8, the organized crime family. You are 52. The organization has existed longer than some of its investigators have been alive. It has traditions, ranks, ceremonies, and rules about who may speak to whom. Leadership changes, the structure remains. Some income comes from clearly illegal activity. Other income passes through construction companies, unions, restaurants, waste businesses, and property deals. The organization's strength is not one crime. It is continuity. A person can disappear while the role survives. The FBI opens a long-term enterprise investigation led by Special Agent Evelyn Park. Park does not expect a quick case. She expects years. Her team studies the organization as an institution. Who attends leadership meetings? Who resolves disputes? Who receives money from different crews? Who has authority without holding a formal position? Investigators gather information from surveillance, financial records, prior cases, cooperating witnesses, and lawful electronic evidence. The first cooperating witness is low-ranking. He knows names but not strategy. The second understands money but not leadership. The third attended meetings but cannot explain the businesses. Each witness is incomplete. Together, they describe the same hierarchy. The organization responds by changing meeting locations and limiting communication. That protects some conversations. It also reveals which conversations matter most. Park's team notices that certain members travel whenever major disputes occur. A man described publicly as retired continues appearing before important decisions. The title disappeared. The authority did not. Prosecutors build the case around the enterprise itself. Individual crimes become evidence of a larger pattern. Extortion supports gambling. Gambling funds loans. Loans create control over businesses. Businesses provide legitimate income and places to meet. Violence protects all of it. The organization expects arrests at the street level. Instead, investigators wait until they can connect decisions at the top to actions below. The final operation involves multiple agencies and dozens of warrants. Crews are arrested together. Financial offices are searched. Businesses are placed under court control. Assets are seized or frozen through legal proceedings. Leadership is isolated from the members expected to replace it. The organization does not vanish in one day. No organization with decades of history does. But its continuity breaks. Members begin competing instead of coordinating. Money stops moving upward. Orders no longer produce action. You believed tradition made the structure permanent. But tradition depends on communication, money, and recognized authority. At level 8, the FBI does not merely arrest the current leaders. It damages the organization's ability to agree on who the next leaders are. Level 9, the International Syndicate. You are 57. The organization operates in several countries. It controls transportation companies, shell businesses, document specialists, brokers, and local criminal groups. Money moves through different currencies and financial systems. Participants communicate across encrypted platforms. Leadership travels rarely and lives where extradition is difficult. You believe geography has divided the investigation. One country sees financial crime, another sees trafficking, another sees cyber activity, another sees violence. No government sees everything. Special Agent Sofia Alvarez works with an international task force. Her job is not to take control of every investigation, it is to make them compatible. Evidence collected lawfully in one country must be usable in another. Names must be matched across languages. Companies must be traced through layers of ownership. Arrest plans must account for different legal systems. The work is slow. You interpret slowness as confusion. It is coordination. A customs agency identifies repeated shipments connected to one broker. A financial intelligence unit traces payments to a holding company. A foreign police service links the company to an address used by one of your managers. A cybercrime team connects that manager to an online account involved in planning. Each country holds one fragment. Alvarez's task force places them together. The syndicate's shell companies begin to collapse into a smaller number of real controllers. Investigators identify service providers who make the organization possible. Accountants, transportation coordinators, document brokers, technology administrators. These people are not always the most feared members. They are often the hardest to replace. Several are arrested while traveling through countries where warrants can be enforced. Others lose access to accounts and infrastructure. Cooperating governments schedule searches and arrests within the same time window. This matters because international organizations survive through warning. One office is searched, a message is sent, accounts empty. People disappear. The task force removes the time between those events. Dozens of locations are targeted before leadership understands the operation has begun. Servers are seized. Accounts are frozen. Shipping companies lose access to ports. Local groups stop receiving instructions. The leader remains outside immediate custody. You call this survival. Alvarez calls it isolation. A leader without money, communication, transportation, or trusted managers controls a name, not an organization. At Level 9, the FBI and its partners destroy the syndicate by attacking the international services that allow distant people to function as one group. Level 10, the criminal state within a state. You are 62. The organization has money, armed members, international partners, corrupt officials, legitimate businesses, and influence over entire communities. It does not simply commit crimes. It provides jobs, resolves disputes, controls access to goods, punishes cooperation with authorities. Some people fear it, others depend on it. Some do both. Removing one leader changes nothing. Arresting one crew changes nothing. Closing one business changes nothing. The organization has become an ecosystem. The FBI does not approach this level as a single criminal case. A national task force is formed. Financial investigators examine money flows. Cyber teams study communication infrastructure. Public corruption units identify compromised officials. Intelligence analysts map relationships. Prosecutors determine which cases can be brought safely and lawfully. International partners target overseas assets and personnel. Special Agent David Monroe coordinates the federal side. He understands the central problem. The organization survives because its parts protect one another. Businesses create money. Money buys influence. Influence provides warnings. Warnings protect leadership. Leadership coordinates violence. Violence protects the businesses. The system forms a circle. Monroe's task force looks for points where the circle depends on something outside itself. Banks, ports, government licenses, communication providers, professional services, public contracts. The organization may control people. It does not control every system those people need. Investigators build separate cases that can operate together. A financial case freezes assets. A corruption case removes officials. A trafficking case disrupts transportation. A cyber case identifies administrators. An enterprise case connects leadership to the entire structure. The organization reacts. Members move money. Officials destroy records. Managers change phones. Businesses transfer ownership. Each reaction creates urgency, but it also confirms which assets matter. The task force does not wait for one perfect final case. Operations begin in stages. First, financial access narrows. Then, trusted insiders disappear. Transportation becomes unreliable. Communication becomes dangerous. Regional leaders stop receiving money. Local members begin acting independently. The organization remains violent, but less coordinated. That distinction matters. A powerful organization can survive pressure. A fragmented one spends its energy fighting itself. Arrests follow across several levels. Some leaders are prosecuted, others are extradited. Businesses are closed or taken from criminal control through court proceedings. Corrupt officials lose the positions that made them useful. Communities receive protection and support, so cooperation does not require facing the organization alone. The process takes years. The organization may not disappear completely. Real institutions rarely vanish as neatly as they do in films. But destruction does not always mean removing every member. It means breaking the mechanism that allows them to act as one body. Monroe stands before the final organizational chart. Many faces remain, the lines between them do not. That is level 10. The FDI does not destroy the organization by finding one person powerful enough to control everything. It destroys it by proving that nobody remains capable of connecting everything. 10 levels, 10 forms of criminal organization. At the first level, 4 friends believe informality makes them invisible. At the second, a gang believes fear guarantees loyalty. At the third, an interstate network believes separation hides the supply chain. At the fourth, a fraudulent company believes paperwork creates legitimacy. At the fifth, a distribution network believes every arrested member can be replaced. At the sixth, a protection racket believes victims will remain silent forever. At the seventh, a corrupt enterprise believes insiders can warn it about every investigation. At the eighth, an organized crime family believes tradition will always produce new leadership. At the ninth, an international syndicate believes borders will keep investigators divided. At the 10th, an organization believes becoming part of society makes it impossible to remove. But the FBI does not investigate these groups as collections of bad people. It investigates systems, money moving upward, orders moving downward, warnings moving inward, fear moving outward. Every organization depends on connections. A leader needs a messenger needs a collector needs a business needs a bank needs records. The organization may hide each relationship. It cannot function without them. That is why the first arrest is rarely the real beginning. The case may have begun months earlier with a complaint, a financial transfer, a stolen vehicle, or a frightened witness who is not ready to speak. And the final arrest is rarely the entire ending. The real ending comes when money stops moving, orders stop being followed, replacements stop appearing, and members no longer believe the organization can protect them. A criminal organization looks strongest when viewed from the outside. Names, ranks, money, reputation. But from the inside, it is a structure held together by trust, fear, communication, and routine. The FBI does not need to break every person. It needs to break enough of those connections that the organization begins breaking itself. By the time agents enter the offices, homes, warehouses, and meeting places, they are not discovering the structure. They are removing the final pieces that still allow it to stand. And the organization you believed was permanent becomes what every destroyed organization eventually becomes. Separate defendants, separate accounts, separate stories, and one completed case.